The Soul Society has a lot of things it does not like to talk about. The holification experiments, the Quincy massacre, the things nailed to the ceiling of the royal realm. But there is one file that barely gets open. One captain whose existence asks a question that the entire institution would prefer you never ask out loud. How do you end up with a war criminal, still in uniform, centuries after the crime? The answer is not the Soul Society did not know. The answer is that they read the file, saw the body count, and decided the results were worth the method. And today we are opening the fourth file of this madman, and once you see what's in it, you will never watch a 𝐽𝐻13 victory the same way again. Before we talk about Mayuri, we need to talk about Mayuri Kurotsuchi, because Nemu is the thesis statement of this entire video. She is not his lieutenant, she is not his daughter in any real sense. She is a manufactured human being grown in a lab, engineered to serve one purpose. She was built to die for data. Mayuri designed her physically so that she could absorb lethal poisons meant for him. She could self-destruct on command. She could be used in ways that no living person will survive because she was never treated as a person. And here is the part that the archives refuse to let go of. She loved him anyway. Not because she was programmed to, because she chose to. And Mayuri across the 1,000-year blood war showed something that looked like grief when she died. He did not call it that because Mayuri probably wouldn't use a word like grief, but we have ways of reading between the lines because he built her to be disposable, and then he spent centuries making her harder to dispose of. This is not progress. That is a man who cannot admit what he actually feels. So he expressed it in the only language that he has. Upgrades, modifications, and experiments. That is the emotional rage of Mayuri Kurotsuchi. And to tell you the truth, it tells you more about him than any fight ever could. But come here. Now here's where it gets generally disturbing, because you might be thinking, okay, Mayuri is cruel, but Bleach has villain types. This is one of those. Not really. Mayuri is something rarer. Mayuri has a philosophy. In the fight between Salafado Grans right before he delivered what might be the most unsettling line in all of Bleach, Mayuri says something that shows presence as a rambling of a mad scientist. But I'm gonna have to disagree. He says that a perfect being cannot be improved. It cannot grow. It cannot learn. That perfection is an end of existence. He would rather be eternally flawed and eternally becoming than arriving at any fixed state. Every experiment, including the ones that killed people, is a service of that idea. He is not cruel because he is enjoying it. He is cruel because he has decided that the process of becoming it is the highest form of existence. Now, here's the dark truth underneath the dark truth. The philosophy is not wrong. It sits uncomfortably close to the Buddhist concept of impermanence. It echoes the idea that the only life worth living is one in constant motion towards something greater. Mayuri got there. Through autopsies and dissections and systematic dismantling of other people, but he got there. But I'm not going to tell you that he's a hero by any means, but it is going to tell you that the man has thought harder about the meaning of existence than any single captain who ever sat judgment of him. And the Soul Society kept him anyway, not despite the philosophy, but because of it. But this part gets buried every single time. Mayuri did not sneak into the 𝐽𝐻13, he was in the Maggot's Nest, Soul Society's prison for people too dangerous to punish and too useful to execute. Keisuke Urahara found him there and gave him a job. And then Soul Society, after exiling Urahara, kept Mayuri. Let that land. They exiled the man who gave Mayuri a second chance. And then they took Mayuri, put him in charge of the most powerful research division in their military. They knew about the experiments, they knew about the human subjects, they knew about Nemu. The court of pure souls held trial after trial for Urahara for developing the Hogyoku. For allowing holification research, they exiled holified Shirogami rather than attempting to cure them. Meanwhile, Mayuri was downstairs in his lab building children's to die for data collection, with a captain's uniform on. The Dark Archives have a word for this, and it's institutional hypocrisy. The 𝐽𝐻13 does not care about ethics, it cares about outcomes. Urahara's outcomes created complications. Rough agents unpredictable variables, problems that the institution could not control. Mayuri's outcome created weapons, so they kept the weapon and exiled the complication. And then there's the final dark truth, the one buried deep enough that most viewers miss entirely. The Nemu Project. After Nemu died in the 1,000-Year Blood War, after Mayuri watched the thing he built to be expandable sacrifice herself in a way even he could not have calculated, he did not grieve. He began building her replacement. The Nemuri Project is not about grief, officially. It is about scientific advancements creating stronger, more capable artificial beings. Progress. But here's what the archives read between those lines. He named the series Nemuri, which means sleep in Japan. He called the entire series after her. Every child growing in those tanks carried her name. Mayuri Kurotsuchi will never say he loved Nemu, but put her name on every single replacement. The most disturbing weapon he ever built was never the Bankai. It was not Ashisogi Jizo. It was not the poison that killed without touching. It was a relationship so wrapped by his own philosophy that the only way he could express attachment was to manufacture it over and over until a name that meant sleep. And so society looked at all of this and said, useful. The easiest read on Mayuri is that he is a monster. He is what you generally get when a general brilliant mind is given permission. Soul Society did not create a monster, it created the conditions and opened the door. And then handed him a badge, a budget, and called it science. The only difference between Mayuri and the thing he dissects on that table is that he is useful to the people holding the scalpel above him. But that's a disclassified file for another night. Bankai.